Day 713, being Christopher Cruz. It's 5 o'clock already. Holy crap. I just got home from church. This morning was challenging. I was honestly so annoyed and frustrated this morning. I just was running out of patience for people. And the first service went by and it was like, okay. And then we got into the second service and I went up to worship and just put my hands in the air and just was like, okay, God, help me remove this frustration and this anger and this resentment that I have. Like, just please, God, clear it out. And I got this message that was see people. What was it? Dang, it was good too. It was like, see the people in people, not the enemy in people. Like, the enemy wants you to be enemies with your brothers and sisters. The enemy wants you to look at a person and see them as your enemy rather than looking at them and seeing them as people where the enemy is operating within them, whether it's a spirit of laziness or a spirit of attitude or a spirit of whatever. And it's just like, it was just like this message of like, see the people in people, don't see the enemy in people, because when you see the enemy in people, like, it's going to trigger you. It's going to make them your enemy. You know, and that's what the enemy wants to do. He wants to take, you know, his attire, you know, his uniform, and he wants to put it on someone else so you think that they're the enemy and you attack them, when in reality they're not your enemy. You know, that's your brother and sister. That's your family, you know, and he wants you to attack your family. He wants you to see your family as the enemy. And so this message was just like, see the people in people, don't see the enemy in people, because the moment you see the enemy in people, they become your enemy. And then you're frustrated with people and you're annoyed with people. And it was like, that's what I was experiencing, like annoyed at this, frustrated at this, like, why doesn't this happen? Why isn't this happening? Why won't this person do this? Why is this so difficult? Like, it was just like, and I'm just seeing these things in people that are just driving me freaking crazy because it's making my life harder. It's like, God, come on, people. Like, it was so frustrating. And I started to get really annoyed at people and started like feeling a lot of resentment towards people. And it was like, God was just like, that's not them. Like if you're going to be angry and frustrated, resentful, be that way towards the enemy. Don't be that way towards them, because the enemy is just operating in them. But then at the same time, the enemy is operating in you because you're seeing that person as your enemy. And it's just like, it's so hard to get out of that, you know, when you're annoyed, when you're frustrated, when people aren't doing the things that they're meant to do, and you're responsible for, you know, everything getting done. It's just like, it just gets really frustrating and annoying. And the thing that's hard for me is like, I'm not the leader of this team. Like, the truth is, like, we are really lacking like a level of leadership that makes people step up their game. And so there's just a lot of just mediocrity. There's just a lot of like, yeah, I'll do it. I might show up. I might not. I might help out. I might not. It's just like, it's just so, to me, that is just, it's discouraging. It's annoying. It's frustrating. But I don't have the authority to really change it. And so it's like, you know, when I think about whenever I've led teams, either at other companies or in my own companies, it's like, we've always had a badass team. Like, they were on point. And like, you know, I made really clear boundaries of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and the expectation of everyone in their role and what they're meant to do. And we were able to, you know, do things and build things like in really powerful ways, you know, because God has given me the gift of leadership. And so there's just like, there's no discipline in our leadership. And so there's no discipline in our people. And so I have to take, you know, charge. I have to be in charge of everything that gets done with those people, but they're not getting it done, or they're complaining, or they're disappearing, or they're avoiding. And it's just like, it's just frustrating. I'm just so freaking over it. So I got to talk to our pastor and just say like, hey, this isn't working. And I think like part of my frustration is I haven't said anything yet, because I look at it and I'm just like, hey, is anyone going to address this? Like, is anyone going to like is anyone going to lead us and like actually fix the problems, or are we just going to keep staring at the problems knowing that they're there and avoiding them in order to avoid conflict or whatever it is? I don't know why we're avoiding the problems, and it's just starting to get frustrating because I have to deal with the problems. Like I get to pick up the pieces of the lack of leadership and the lack of accountability and the lack of teamwork and all these different things. And so it's just like, it's just not how I operate in teams. Like, it's like, yeah, like I'm not a fractured leader. Like that is not how I like to do things. Like if I'm gonna lead, like, hey, we're a team, we're in this together, everyone is responsible. Like, you know, it's not like, hey, everyone do their own thing and, you know, figure out whatever you want. And it's just like, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. So yeah, so God was just giving me this message of, hey, these people are not your enemy. There's a spirit, you know, that is influencing them. That's your enemy. Okay, so if you're going to be angry or pissed off, be angry or pissed off at the devil, not at these people, because they're just being influenced by that. And by the way, you're being influenced by that too. Well, you feel your resentment and your anger and your frustration, your righteousness and all these other things. And so it's just, I'm finding it more and more emotionally challenging every Sunday morning when I get there. And it's just like, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with people's egos. I don't want to deal with, you know, people just, everyone thinking they know the best way. Like, I kind of snapped at someone, you know, a little bit. Not snapped, but I was just like, I'm done being nice. Like, just freaking do it this way. And that's the thing. Like, when, like, I've led teams before, so many different teams, and my own teams, and it's like, hey, I'm friendly, and I'll joke around and I'll have fun, but there's also a level of respect, and there's a boundary that is drawn, and if you cross that boundary, we're gonna have a conversation. And it's just like, everyone on this team, they're just so rebellious and they're so independent, and we're all so stubborn, and we're all so this and that. And so it's just like, it's just a battle. It's just a battle to get anyone to do anything, really. It's just, and then people are frustrated with each other and they're resentful towards each other. Well, what about this person? Well, where's this person? Well, what about them? And it's just like, fuck, I just don't want to do this. Like, yeah. So it is just, it honestly feels like the team is just falling apart, and it's been falling apart, and leadership can see it's falling apart, but they're not doing anything about it. And that frustrates me. That complacency or fear or whatever is stopping them from stepping in and saying, okay, this doesn't work anymore. It's time to get you guys in check. Like, the lack of that discipline, or the lack of that standard, is very frustrating to me. Very, very frustrating. It wouldn't be so frustrating if I didn't have to lead and if I wasn't responsible for certain things now, but now that I am, it's like, fuck, I don't want to do this. Like, so yeah, so I have to talk to our pastor about it, because it's just getting to a point now where it's just like, I don't want to do it, and I won't do it. Like, I won't do it. So something has to change, and I'm sure I have to change. That's probably the first part of it. I don't know exactly how yet, but I need to sit and think about that, and I'm sure God will reveal that to me. But I think really it's like, how I need to change is I need to speak up. Like, not only speak up, but come to them with a solution. Like, hey, this doesn't work. Our team is not working. This is falling apart. And we need to do something to change it. It's not like, just because there's 2 months left of this internship doesn't mean we should finish the race limping. Like, we should finish stronger than we were coming in, and it just feels like we're barely going to get across the finish line. And it's just like, man, this sucks. Like, every day is getting, less and less appealing to go. So, and I can see, clearly what's missing. And, I just have a lot of leadership experience, and so that helps. And so, but yeah, the fact that I'm like I can only be nice for so long before I get really freaking serious and really assertive. And yeah, I'm just losing my patience. So God was just like, see people in people, don't see the enemy in people. Like, you're not fighting these people, you're fighting the enemy. And the enemy's in you just like the enemy's in them. And the enemy wants nothing more than for you to believe that people are your enemy. The enemy wants nothing more than to make you believe that your family is your enemy. Because the Bible says a house divided will fall, and that's exactly what the enemy wants to do. He wants to divide the house of God. He wants to divide the family of God. He wants to divide the kingdom of God. And what better way to do that than to make you believe that your family is your enemy? You know, think about if you're fighting a war. What is the best way to win a war? Have your enemies fight each other. Convince your enemies that they're enemies and they'll destroy themselves. And that's exactly what the devil wants. He wants the children of God to believe that we are each other's enemies, so we fight each other and we do all the dirty work for him. Because the last thing he wants is unity. He doesn't want all of God's children to come together and fight against him. He wants all of God's children to separate and fight against themselves. And it works really well, and it is working really well, and it works inside of every single one of us. Like, it worked inside of me today. You know, I'm looking at my brothers and sisters and I'm like, I'm just frustrated and annoyed, and I'm making them wrong, and I'm doing all these different things, and it's such a shitty feeling. And it's so hard to see the truth when you're in it. You know, it's so hard to see that, hey, that's not really them. That's the enemy operating in them. So don't be mad at them. Don't be frustrated at them. Don't have resentment towards them, because that's not them. And it's like, you know, how do you kill the enemy, you know, when it's operating in someone? You know, how do you love them through where they're at and what they're going through? So that's what I'm learning. I'm learning a massive amount of patience, and I'm not doing a very good job. So, yeah. I just got to say something, because me not saying something when I can see so clearly what's wrong and what's not working and what needs to change, me not saying something is just making me even more frustrated. I'm just even more frustrated by the situation, because I just expect that they're going to step up and change it, and it's just not going to happen. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse, and it's like, wow, actually nobody's going to step up. So maybe God is doing that intentionally, so I'm the one that has to step up. So, yeah. So, all right. Just had to get that out. Yeah. People are not my enemies. The enemy is my enemy.